I will do this in English, as we are being broadcasted and we have a lot of people who don't understand Swedish. I hope that will help. Please ask questions in Swedish in case that's what you have. Very pleased to see so many people here today. I will do my best to convince you that actually it's not only worth it to develop a low-risk, high-value biotech. It's possible, and it also raises a potential that are larger than we normally would expect. The company as such, we are focusing, and we are known globally now as a player in vaccine development. We have customers all over the world with a unique platform. We were founded from a technology derived in the start of millennium, spin out from a Danish company, started as a Danish company in 2010, listed 2016 in Stockholm on the Nasdaq First North. And then we have acquired into a joint venture, adding some additional technology, a very hot area called virus-like particles. And then we have this year, after actually many years' work, launched our first own modified system, which I'll tell about later. We are a small company. We are 16 employees today, not counting AdaptVac, of course. And then we outsource as many functions we can, as small companies do nowadays. Why vaccines and immunotherapy? I'll just dwell with it briefly because basically it answers itself. We have outbreaks in infectious diseases you hear of every day. Recently you also heard about Zika in France, so it's not only far away. You see a list here that is the recent list from WHO on outbreaks all over the world. And for some of these we have vaccines, and for some of those we don't. And for those where we have it, better vaccines are still in question. Malaria is not mentioned here under outbreaks because it's an ongoing catastrophe. And it is estimated from UNICEF that the cost is in the order of $12 billion US dollars in lost BNP for the African area. On the other side, I put a little bit emphasis on cancer, which is one of the major health threats we have in the Western world. And I'm dwelling a bit with that because in AdaptVac we are addressing the area that has to do with vaccines, immune oncology, and actually what we know as immune oncology in many ways are therapeutic vaccines as well. For market size, evidently this is big numbers. Whether or not you look at the global vaccine market or the cancer market, we're talking billions of dollars. In case one wants to know what's it worth for us, you have to say what kind of market exactly we're addressing. But this is just to say this is a very big pond, and we are in an area that is growing, particularly immune oncology. That was a little bit stagnating, attempts were made early millennium with the checkpoint inhibitors and a lot of other initiatives. It's now getting momentum. And what we see here is the top players that takes it. It also underlines another point. As a small company, we are business to business. We are the ones kind of making the bullets, and then we sell them off to the large companies. So we want to take something to a place where somebody gets interested enough. And the point is, in the recent years, vaccines, immuno-oncology has gained momentum, and the larger players are now interested in projects much earlier than they were just 10 years ago. So what is it that we have that's so special? The ExpreS2ion platform is a recombinant platform, which means that we look at a virus particle or a marker in cancer, and we take out the DNA and put it in. These little yellow nuggets are the S2 cells, thus our names, that then produce the protein. The protein, the little fluffy things, is in the soup. We can purify it under conditions that make it possible to actually use it for medicine, and it ends up as vaccines, immunotherapy, or diagnostics. Over time, and what is our really strong case, is that we have been able to make things others couldn't. Malaria, which I come back to, is one of the best examples where we enabled now a row of vaccines that are in clinical development due to the fact that this system can make the proteins in a way so they work. We have lots of publications made by others telling that this works. It also is a good system for manufacturing into medical systems. and basically you couldn't get any better commercial because this is spread all over the world. Since we started, the lower left corner here would be more or less where we have the system I just showed you. And to the right is where we are today. We have spent a lot of time to add on all the elements required. So we call it a discovery platform. And discovery means from idea until you show that it actually has an effect in humans. We do that either in-house, where things like GMP production, which is a rather big setup, is something we do through strategic partners. So we have somebody lined up that can take a project right on. This has been a rather extensive process, but it also has come through the world through a lot of partners. We have partners from academia. We work together with some of the most renovated academic institutions, Jenner Institute, Oxford, Harvard, University of Copenhagen, etc. We also work with some of the large players, and that would be Novartis or Roche, and some of those are repeating customers, and others are on and off. But basically, we have been able to deliver both in terms of things they couldn't do themselves, and also deliver in a quality that actually make them stay with us. And based on that, we have produced more than 300 proteins, which people say, well, is that a lot? Well, if it's 300 proteins, nobody else could really make work. Then it's pretty good. That is recognized around the world, and what I am trying to mix now is, in chemistry, when you take two things and mix them in a vial, you never really know what happens. And in this case, is it possible to mix revenue, direct, service, product, industry with an actual development system where you actually go in? You know, normal biotech don't make money. They get a lot of money and they show they're worth it and make a product. We make both. We have this own arm that we try to combine in, and I would try to convince you that actually de-risk the whole project, and it takes down our burn rate but still allow us to invest. This is kind of the box where we sell things. So short-term revenues are made from products. We have a web shop. You can click and get a protein. You can get toll-like receptors if you wanted. Not so many people in the world can make those. We also sell reagents. We also sell kits that people can use on the university to see how the system works. We provide services. We make processes. We make cell banks. And we make analytics. By the end of the day, if you rather would do it yourself, and some people do, they think they can do it better, then they license the system, they get it from us, we get support, and they do it at their place. All of these things has the common denominator that we get money upfront for doing that. What comes then from these things are projects, and projects that continue will, if we make a commercial license, because we own the production system, give us royalties and milestones, not as if you owned a project. This is smaller bits, but still with the market we look into, absolutely attractive bits. Collaborations, ventures, and then again, I know that AdaptVac on the right side here is also a venture, but it's a joint venture that exists, and we already have a pipeline, while we still look at other joint ventures. And we can do that because we have an attractive technology that we can combine in. This has migrated down to a rather extensive pipeline. And if I was looking at this and somebody said we are 16 person and this is what we administer, I would say good luck, that's going to be expensive and bad. But the point here is, this is projects in which our platform is involved. All of them are running on grant money, except the one in the bottom, which is a French company that has a commercial license to an Ebola serum. I'm not going to dwell into how much actually the different things are doing and where, but I'd like to talk about malaria. We recently came out and could tell that we had gained yet another malaria project in. We got 1.6 million Swedish kronor for a new project in the pipeline. And as you can see, on the right side, these are the different institutions we're doing it with. It's running under EU money, Horizon 2020, Framework 7, or national programs like from Germany. And all of these represents opportunity. Each of these represent a license opportunity. The lower one with Walter and Elizabeth Hall is different because we have 50% of the IP. That was a Nature article earlier this year, a new key complex to unlock cells and the malaria vaccine complications, and that is actually a very attractive area. This is not something that's financed yet, but the rest has financing and is running. And you have to remember, all of these projects, for our role, we receive money. It's not like another biotech that would spend it. Why so many malaria vaccines? Brief notion to that, the upper right corner. Malaria is a disease that has many stages, and the red markings on that just say you can interfere. There's the placenta malaria. It's important when you get pregnant. You can actually get malaria, even though you are immune, and that's bad for you and the child. It's a blood stage, or you can block where the mosquito and the transmission comes in. That's why there's several. And it's a tricky issue. Nobody has solved it yet. So basically, what's interesting is also it's enormous need and many attempts. But if one makes an attempt to say, what is the value of this? BCG made a translation of the annual need for a blood-phase malaria vaccine, and basically looking at our ownership, which is into a low number of royalties and upfront, it would translate into something like a 70 to 180 million Swedish kronor a year. And for a company our size, that's certainly an upside. And in this case, we have many lots in the box. AdaptVac, we had a lot of attention around that when we entered it. Briefly, it is a technology that is synergistic with ours. The two rings on the left side signifies what we call a vector. That's how you make recombinant proteins. And if you put AdaptVac's version into vector, you get a particle. In this case here, it's just schematically made. It's a rather complex, big structure. It assembles itself. And if you make it with a little tag on, and then we on the bottom make the protein with a little hook on, then you simply mix. And that is the technology we have with them. That's simply mixing, plugging and playing into changing towards different targets. The list on the right is a number of targets that shows that this is really a platform that can do different things. The one marked with red are things that we are actually working on, and actually one is missing, as you can see from the next slide. But you get very efficient vaccines, and the HPV vaccine that was mentioned just a little bit back is also a VLP or virus-based vaccine, which has shown that this is highly efficient to immunize a little bit the same way as virus does itself. We have just taken out what was dangerous. So it's only virus-like, it's only the capsule. Now, this is what we have in the pipeline of AdaptVac. And the most foremost project is AV01, targeting HER2-positive cancer. We look at breast cancer generally, but there's a number of cancers that are positive in that respect, and there's a big need, and we know there is a market because people use antibodies nowadays. The point with this slide, I'm not going to run through it very meticulously, is that all of these has a price tag. When I write XXX on PCSK9, this means that expected it's a three-digit $1 million Swedish kronor, because the market that we see now for monoclonals is about 3 billion. Now, why can't I give you an exact number? Well, if you are an early clinic, I can actually calculate any given number. And the interesting point is when we get through and get the point. But the market is certainly big enough to all of these to be very attractive. AdaptVac had some grants. There's a couple of grants on the cardiovascular, on the dog cancer vaccines. Is dogs interesting? Well, we asked that question as well, and there's a deal that is mentioned from 14, which is selling off the rights for it's called DIR2 in dogs actually, but the same molecule. And that was around $37 million to get the right for that package. So yes, it has value. Secondly, the data from that will sustain our human project. Finally, a rather large portion was getting into what's called pig post-weaning diarrhea. This is a very big problem in the pig industry. This is where they use the most antibiotics, which we try to avoid. And basically, a vaccine like this would be helping out in a way that you kind of can avoid using antibiotics. So it gets sustained and gets supported. They got a grant, 3.6 million Swedish kronor for AdaptVac's part of the work, but actually it's a large grant of 16 million Swedish kronor. And with that effort, this will actually get into real testing. So all these are also getting well on their way. The difference from AdaptVac and us is AdaptVac owns a different bit of the technology here, which means a larger share by the end. Now, a little bit of science, but I will make it short to endure. We're very proud of what we made, which is the functionally modified platform. We had this cellular platform, and one thing that we normally don't talk so much about is that all proteins you have in your body, they are modified when they're done. And one of the things that happens is that sugars are put on, and these sugars determine how they work. So basically, on the left side, you see the fluffy, colorish part is the protein. In this case, actually the malaria protein that only we could make. And there's a sugar group schematically put on that. And what we did is that genetically engineering, we get the group on the right side. You can see it's larger. We call it high man because mannose is a sugar, and there's a lot of it. We also in-licensed CRISPR, which is a revolution in our industry now, and that accelerates this process drastically. This is modifying immunogenicity. You can also modify in other ways pharmacokinetics. You can humanize things, which mean we enter new market segments like biosimilars. All this in progress. All I want to say is that a good example on how it works, this is a placental malaria. It's actually quite a problem. We have 200 deaths in Africa based on this from some small children. But the point is, if you look at the table, this is a little bit reverse. You get infected up at 100% and you're protected at 0. The first that's shown here is we take the antigen as is and put in and get very low protection. If we make the high mannan, significantly better protection. We take the VLP from AdaptVac. That's better even with the non-modified antigen. However, if we add the modified antigen, we get absolutely better protection again. This is a competitive edge, and it also strengthens the whole concept. This is something that we already now see quite a bit of interest on from different parties. We've just been out in the world a bit, and this is something people are looking for. Now, we are very happy to make children healthy and happy. The question is, can we make our investors happy? Our last quarterly report came out last week, and we are actually holding the growth and revenues that we're having. The table on the left is showing the first 3 quarters where we are compared to last year, which is a red line. 120% up the first quarter, 46% next quarter, 45% last quarter, and year to date we are at 137%. We are now seeing things are working, and basically it means if you look to the right side that we are year to date 19 already above last year's revenues. So we are getting traction, and I think that's both the products and the other things we see. Just remember from where we came, in 15 it was about the 100% level we started on, and we have now worked up, so by the end of this year we will be more than 400% up to that. And at the same time we have managed to actually invest, which we still will do, continuously into the development of products and strengthen the platform and values. So why is this happening? Basically, we see a lot of business going on, but we also see that the conversion rate is, we on a steady basis negotiate with something between 50 to 70, 80 different parties all the time. And conversion rate is how many of these discussions turns into business, how much becomes deals. And we have improved strongly on that, and I think we know that we do a lot of sales and marketing. By Europe, I was there last week. We launched this product at World Vaccine some weeks earlier. Right now, we have people at PEX in Lisbon, and this is how we really get this traction. A number of other issues, and we are going into stronger digital marketing. You will see a new website. You will see a new investors relations site. Communication is a big piece, but clearly people knows us. And the first time at BioEurope, actually some of the larger parties came to us instead of reverse, which is a really good sign. So looking forward, we will continue what we started to strengthen revenues, open market segments, focus very much now on partnering activities now that we are getting things in place. And we will try to move the assets to where we have a major inflection point in value. At the same time, we do still look for new assets to continue value creation enterprises. And with that, I will leave you with a picture of the management, which I can say this is more or less the same picture you've seen all the time I've been presenting. But basically, we do cover everything from the early research into the clinic, and actually also have a single one on the lawyer side. So we think we are good for the travel that we are now starting to accelerate and getting into a new ball game with the new platform and the new products. Thank you very much.
Tack så mycket. Frågor? Är det någon som vill passa på? Ja. Ett ögonblick. Vi har tiden. Ja.
To continue where you stopped, these major inflection points, what do you foresee, and when can it be?
How long does it take to catch a fish is kind of that question, but basically we have been working on this for a while. And it's not as if something happens out of nothing. This is things we're working on in the background. We, for AdaptVac's sake, we had a specific patent issued last year, and of course, proprietary rights is really important. I cannot give you a specific time, but for several of the things we're in now, which is both making larger deals or long-term deals with different partners, is something that could happen within a short while or a bit longer. And for all of these, I think it's important to understand it's not just about selling something up as fast as possible. It is about to get the right value for the asset you have created. We have invested quite a bit in AdaptVac and also in some other assets, and we are not likely to give them off too cheap. So we see interest now, and what we want, of course, is to build that interest up with various parties so we can get the right deal. I know it doesn't answer your question on when, because that's simply a fact that I can't say when, but you will know when.
That's promising. Yeah, you have a follow-on question?
You need to be a bit more precise. Is it reasonable to expect a deal during next year?
I would hope so, yes. But I'm careful about promising. We are at a stage where that absolutely is possible, is the way I would express it. But as I said, I can't put my hands on that, also because it's the same thing with the business in the background. You don't hear about the approximate one deal a week that we make. But if they were larger, you would. So it's an ongoing process where we simply have to get it right. But if you ask me about the maturity of the assets we have now is at the stage where that would be able to, it's something we could carry through, the answer is yes.
Som ni hör så får man vara försiktig vad man säger, vad man lovar, och det har Sten gjort på ett alldeles förträffligt sätt här, tycker jag. Vi har nu kommit så pass långt så att vi ska tacka dig för att du har varit här och presenterat. Du kommer att vara kvar.
Ja.
under lunchen så är det någon som vill passa på att ställa någon ytterligare fråga så går det alldeles utmärkt.